What are we going to play tonight? It's funny because I wasn't going to bring the guitar until after Shavuot, but now I'm glad I do because it's very comforting. That's 3 chords, that nigun. It's amazing. That's from Shlomo. They make a beautiful nigun from 3 chords, or 2 chords. Really amazing. Okay, so hopefully we won't have any problems with the internet connection, because it says on my phone, slow connection. I don't know what to do about that. I don't think they have Wi-Fi here anymore. They used to. Let's see. See if we can fix the internet connection. No. Continuing with the slow connection, and hopefully everything will work out. Okay, so we're going to continue now with lesson 24. We're getting towards the end. We've already really reached the official end of the lesson. At this point, Reb Nosson is adding a clarification, and then after the clarification, we're going to go to the actual end of the lesson, which, if you remember, the lesson started off where the elders of Athens asked Rabbi Yossi ben Hanania? Or was it Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, when they asked him, where's the center of the universe? And he raises up his finger and he says, it's right here. And they said, oh, really? Prove it. And he said, bring ropes and you can measure it. So that's what this whole lesson is based on. And based on that, we learn this idea of bringing the infinite light into this finite world. And the way that you bring the infinite light into the finite world is through doing a mitzvah. Doing a mitzvah through joy. So you can experience it, for example, on Shabbos, or when you give tzedakah, maybe during davening, for sure at a wedding. There's all kinds of times when you can experience this joy in the mitzvah. Like in purely doing a mitzvah and experiencing this very high spiritual joy. That is the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light that's coming down into this finite world. And now, he talked about this concept that we've been learning again and again. Mate v'la mate, or mote v'la mote. Magia v'la magia, that you reach it, but you don't reach it. And it means that you have like this spark of holiness, this spark of connection with Hashem, and then it disappears. But now what we're talking about last week, is the redifa, the chasing of the mind. That it can run and run and run and run, and if it's not pulled back, it doesn't have the kelim, it doesn't have the vessels to handle the light that's coming into it, and it'll break the vessels, meaning cause a person to be insane. Say hi to, of course, Aryeh and Zahava and Chaya and Alice. Welcome back, Alice, who's a Savta or Abba. Amazing, beautiful, Beitar Elite. Your great-grandchildren should grow up in the Torah lechupala ma'asim tovim b'ezrat Hashem, and everybody's into, of course, Yael, and my mother that watches, and Katie that watches later, and Avital, and Shev Refuah Shlema, and Shana Batsheva, and everybody that watches, Shalom Aleichem. Okay, so we're going to continue here about this idea of the mind chasing after this feeling of the infinite light that we get when we do a mitzvah with joy. לאחר שבאר שהכתר מעכב את רדיפת המוחין מהריסה, after he explained that the level of keter, so here's the chart, keter is at the top, keter is also the crown that goes around your head, keter is the highest level. So what is this bringing down this Or Ein Sof? What is the ultimate level? And we use the word bracha, and bracha means to bend, to bring down. Lahavriach is to put the vine under the ground and bring it back up. The bracha is bringing down the Or Ein Sof into this finite world. We're having like a spiritual experience on an emotional level. We're feeling some type of joy in our connection to Hashem. But the ultimate level is when it reaches the mochin, when it reaches the intellect, the sechel, and you reach a high spiritual connection in an intellectual way that actually allows you to grow. You're not just having an experience, you're in a sense gaining more godly connection knowledge, which allows you to connect with a higher way, to Hashem in a higher way. So the keter ma'akev et ridifat hamochin meharisa. So this level of keter blocks and holds back the chasing of the mind from destroying it. Kedei shelo yinzaku meribui ha'or, so that your mind will not be damaged by the great light that's coming down. Yive'er ata ketzad haketer me'akev, and now he's going to explain how this level of keter actually pulls you back. Hu gam mesader u'meyasher, it also organizes and settles your mind. Ki al yado na'asim tet hechalin letzorech hasagat or ha'in sof, that through this reaching a higher place, pulling the intellect back down, it creates these 9 palaces or vessels for receiving the infinite light in this world, and that's bchinat mate v'la mate, and that's reaching but not reaching. So if we explain it in a different way, you're reaching this high spiritual level, but you're not staying there forever, and you're not staying there for too long, and you're coming back. And the going and coming back, and the going and coming back, it creates a higher and higher level. The first example that I think of, I have a friend that had the stomach surgery to shrink his stomach so he could lose weight. And he was at our Shabbos table, and he said he couldn't drink the grape juice, the fizzy grape juice. Why? Because it expands his stomach. And he's got to be careful how much he eats. Can't overeat because then it'll expand the stomach. So the stomach was shrunk down to this size. But you keep stretching it, it stretches and then it doesn't go back to its original size. So the same thing here. As we're getting closer to Hashem and closer to Hashem through doing the mitzvahs with joy, through reaching a higher level that it reaches actually our intellect, we're expanding our ability to connect with Hashem, and it won't go back to that level. But if it doesn't have the constriction, if it just expands forever, then there's nothing to contain it, and it loses its ability to help us, and instead it causes damage. So, you can think of putting air in a balloon. You start blowing up the balloon. If you keep going forever, it's going to pop. It's not a balloon anymore. It's just a piece of rubber that popped. But if you want the balloon to be a balloon, at some point you have to stop. And if you've ever tried to blow up a balloon and see how far it'll go before it pops, so you put a little breath and you wait a second, and a little breath and you wait a second, you wait to see, is it going to get there? And that's kind of what we're doing. We're adding a little breath and we're adding a little breath and we're expanding and expanding, but we're not letting it go all the way that it pops. Okay. ועל ידי הרדיפה והמעכב, היינו על ידי הרדיפה שהמוחין רוצפין להשיג אור האינסוף, through the running forward, the chasing and the pulling back, the ma'akev, that is to say, the mind is trying to grasp the infinite light of Hashem, right? You can't grasp something that's infinite. If you imagine we're reaching out to grab something, but the further we reach out, the further it is away. You can never actually reach it. Or an example that I read somewhere, I don't remember where I read it, maybe it was with the Alter Rebbe and something in the Tanya, that you look at a mountain and you reach that mountain, but when you're standing on that mountain, you see the next mountain. So even though that mountain seemed far away, when you actually got there, you realize that there's another mountain, and another mountain, another mountain. So we never actually reach Hashem. But if we don't stop, if we're constantly running towards the next mountain, then we don't actually achieve anything. V'al yedei koach hama'akev, and through this power of restricting or holding back the mind, shehu koach hameyashev v'hamasader, that this is the power to settle and organize the mind. B'chinat keter, that's related to the level of keter, which is crown, which is the head. Kanal is mentioned above. Al yedei shnei b'chnot elu, through these two aspects, al yedei ze mevatim umakin hamochim b'chinat hamechitza kanal. By doing this, we hit and hold back the mind, which creates a type of mechitza, which is a divider, as mentioned above. Shehu hameyashev v'hamaseder. That is when we stop for a second, hold back our chasing after this infinite light, and create a vessel to receive some of it. That's the settling and organizing of the mind. And this is how we make a vessel for the infinite light. So I told you, I have a friend, and he's already left Israel because something is really off with him, poor guy. And he was doing a lot of this stuff. He was going to these deep meditations, these Kabbalistic I have no idea, seminars or whatever it is, and I don't even know what they do there, and going deeper and deeper and deeper, and then I really thought that he was like on antidepressant medication or something. Like the guy wasn't there. It was like the person wasn't there. It was only after he left that I started asking his friends what happened to this guy, and they told me he was going to all these meditations, and I knew for many years he was very into this stuff. So apparently his mind just went and went and went and went, and he never pulled it back. You have to really cut. You have to say, even if you're doing this stuff for an hour, for a day, whatever it is, you have to simply cut, go back to work, go back to life, go back to everything, and forget about this high Kabbalistic place. But if you remain there and keep remaining there, you don't come back down. I don't know if that happens to everybody, but that's what he's talking about here. Dahainu shenaasim b'chinat kelim v'heichalot beruchniyut elyon. That is, you make a vessel and you make a palace, a spiritual palace, a supernal spiritual palace. La'asig al yadam, to grasp through this or to achieve through this, b'chinat mate v'lamate, of reaching but not reaching, et or ha'in sof ba'uchu, Hashem's infinite light. So I don't know. I went on the path of doing tshuva. So if I go back to when I was 17 and I walked for the first time to shul, that was a very low spiritual level for me where I am right now. But at the time, it was a very high spiritual level. So the more that you grow in your spirituality and your connection with Hashem, where you were before, becomes a lower level. And constantly, as you're going up and up and up, it gets to be a higher level. Now, in the beginning, when I was keeping Shabbos, like my years in college, my only goal was not to touch electricity for the 24 hours of Shabbos, or 25 hours. Like literally, that's all I wanted to do was not turn the lights on and off, not turn on a TV. a radio, computer, or anything like that. So I would buy Time magazine or Newsweek magazine, and I would read them from cover to cover. I did this for many years, even when I was living over here. I don't think they print Newsweek magazine anymore. I don't know if they even print Time magazine anymore. Many years, this is what I was doing. I learned a lot over those years. That for me is not a challenge anymore. It's not a challenge to keep myself away from the phone, or to not turn the lights on and off. So that's what it means. You're reaching a level and you're pulling back. Of course, when I was here in like the 90s, when I was also in like the really early years of my tshuva process, so I would meet people on programs like Livnot or Livanot, which is in Tzfat. They actually kicked me off the program. I don't know how many people they've kicked off the program, but they literally packed my bags and bought me a ticket to Gaza. I wish I had gone because I'd never been to Gaza. One of the guys who was running the place there, he was from a kibbutz in Gaza, and he was a very nice guy, really. He arranged for me to have a bed and to volunteer on the kibbutz. I just couldn't be on leave note anymore. What was I doing that disturbed them so much? So people were becoming what I called super Jews. They were overnight becoming Haredi, literally putting on a black hat and a black coat. They knew nothing. They couldn't even pronounce the Hebrew alphabet. And I was on this path. At that point, I was probably 20. So it'd been 3 years. And I was going very slow over all the years. And I would tell people, slow down, pull back. And they got upset at me because they saw people taking off black hats and taking off their coats. And they didn't like that. And so they kicked me off the program. That was the reason they kicked me off. I don't know if it was a wise decision or not. Many years later, so that was in 1990. And then probably in like 2000 or something like that, maybe even a little later, 2000-something, I ran into the whole crew at a wedding in New York. I was at a friend's wedding. I happened to be in New York for some business stuff. And his wife worked for Livnot, and the whole crew was there, and they saw me, and they ran over. And they said, "We're so sorry. We never should have kicked you off the program." So I forgive them. I forgave them then. I forgive them now. It'll be a good story in one of my future books. Now, why am I telling you this story? Because this is the mate vela mate. This is trying to reach a high spiritual place that you don't have the kelim for. So what happened to all those people? I think maybe one remained in Israel. Didn't remain religious. No one remained religious except for me. And there's another person who over time, she eventually became a Baalat Tshuva. She lives here, I think it's still in Jerusalem. But people didn't have the kelim for it. So here they're in this 2 or 3 month program. They're running forward. They're taking on mitzvot. They're getting excited. And the program is just like hyping them up. Get more and more excited. Be a Jew, be Jew, be Jew. And then they go back to America and just gone. So that's the problem. That if you don't have the kelim to handle the light that's coming in, then it's just going to dissipate. But here we're talking about on a personal level. We're having this personal spiritual experience. We're reaching a higher place in connecting with Hashem. We have to always pull ourselves back and calm our mind down so that we can absorb the level that we were at, and then the next time reach a higher level. Ki im lo ha'ma'akev hanan klal. If there wasn't this restrictive mechanism, as mentioned above, at all, lo ya mi she'ya'akev et ha'mochin me'redifatam u'merutzatam. There would be nothing that would be holding back, or wouldn't be anyone that would hold back the thinking, the person's mind from running and chasing after this infinite light. Hayu mivatzlim hamochin legamre. It would completely nullify a person's mind. V'adam haya yotze medato, and a person would go insane. Kamo shematzinu beben zoma. As we found, so last week, remember, I was asking who was it ben zoma? And David, who watches the lesson, he wrote to me sometime last week, and he wrote just Ben Zoma. Now he knew he was watching the lesson. So the story, I just remind everybody who's listening, the story of the Pardes, which is Rabbi Akiva. He and Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, and Acher, who is known as Rabbi Elisha ben Abuya, these were these great rabbis in the Talmud. They went into this high Kabbalistic meditation to reach this high spiritual place, and only Rabbi Akiva came out. He went in peace and came out in peace, because what they saw in this high spiritual place was something that didn't make sense to people down here in this world. So if you're not capable of taking that high spiritual level and bringing it down, then you lose your mind. Like Ben Zoma was the rabbi that lost his mind. One became a heretic, the other died, and only Rabbi Akiva stayed alive. Ki haya ha'adam mevatel b'mitziut. The person would be completely, reality would be nullified to the person. Ki or ha'ein sof i'efshar la'asi. Because it's impossible to grasp this infinite light. Ach al yedei shnei bechinot, unless it's through these two ways, shehem ha'redifa v'ha'ma'akev, the chasing after and the pulling back. Al yedei ze na'asim bechinat mechitzot ve'echalin hanal. Through this we make dividers, meaning we hit like walls, and we have, I see that the slow connection keeps coming up. I hope that it's working okay. We have these walls, and then we have these vessels that are created by hitting the wall, because we're always pulling back and pulling back and pulling back. The only way that we can grasp this infinite light is through trying to grasp it, but not grasping it. So there's a note here. It's explained in Likutey Moharan, and of course Likutey Moharan is Reb Nosson, who's taking the Shulchan Aruch, and through that he's expanding on all of the Torahs of Rabbi Nachman. So this is in the section on Nefilat Apayim, when you fall on your head like that, when you do Tachanun. So I'm guessing that it's the hand and the mochin and the mind are being connected, which is what we're talking about here. We're talking about the lower level and the higher level. And from that, he's saying, Ikar hamshachat hashefa lamata al yedei koach mesader et mochin. The main way of drawing down the abundance down here below is through the power of holding back the mind. This is the power of holding back the mind from chasing after the infinite light. Now, you understand what it is to chase after the infinite light. Imagine you have, I'm sure everybody has had at some point some very high spiritual experience. And Rabbi Nachman talks about this. He talks about this in the Shtatchut HaNefesh, and the pouring out of the soul. He says sometimes he calls it a bubble, a buah. You have this bubble of this high spiritual experience. And he says, and when you're in that bubble, try to stay there as long as you can, because the bubble is going to pop, and then it's going to be gone. So it could be, for example, during Shmona Esrei, or I'm guessing what I see on Friday night. I see people, doing all kinds of things with their hands at Mayonot and covering their eyes and going like this. I'm hoping that they're having some spiritual experience and not just putting on a show. I have no idea. But when you have this spiritual experience, so the goal of it is to hold on to it for as much as you can, but also to let it go. Because you can't grasp this infinite light. You can't hold on to it forever. But when you do hold on to it for a short amount of time, it's this wonderful feeling. It's in a sense a type of drug. You're really totally connected to Hashem. There's stories of Lubavitcher Rebbe's that, I don't remember which Rebbe it was. One of the Rebbe's was asked, I think it was the Tzemach Tzedek. The Rebbe was giving out brachas to the Hasidim, and one of the Hasidim said, what does the Rebbe want? And the Rebbe said he wants to be a fiery flame for Hashem. Meaning that he wants to be totally consumed by Kedusha to the point where he's just the flame. He's not even himself anymore. But he's still here in this world. It's also a flame, it lights other flames, and a flame warms things up. The Friedeker Rebbe, he met Freud. I don't know where it's written. I think somewhere in Freud's notes he wrote about it. It's a known thing. The two of them met, and Freud asked the Friedeker Rebbe, which is the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe, so what do you do for a living? And he says, I'm a lamplighter. And he said, and I build bridges. He said, really, you don't look like a lamplighter or a bridge maker? So he said, well, I light people's lamps, and from their lamp they light another person's lamp, and from their lamp they light another person's lamp, and that's what I do. And I build the bridge between the mind and the heart. I make this connection between the mind and the heart. So, okay. That's this place of the Ein Sof, of reaching this place of being connected to Hashem. So you can imagine if you're in this beautiful, warm place of being connected to Hashem, you don't want to leave it. Ki lefi rehitat uredifat hamochin lamala lamala laasig Ein Sof, through the enthusiasm and the chasing of the mind, going higher and higher to grasp this infinite light. Im lo haya koach hama'akev hanal, if there wasn't this power to pull it back, hayu hamochim olim lamala v'lo hayu yotzim meikleihem v'hayu mevatlim legamrei. The mind would simply continue chasing after Hashem, and there would be nothing to pull it back, and it would be completely nullified. You'd lose your mind. V'az b'vadai lo haya shum shefa yoredet lamata, and then no light is coming down, no abundance is coming down to this world, because all you did was chase after the light, but you didn't actually bring it back into this world. Because the mind was going up, but it never came back down. So imagine, on top of a mountain, there's a huge mountain of gold. And you climb up the mountain, and you just sit there with the gold. It's not worth anything. It's only worth something if you break it and bring it back down. If you just stay up there, or if you just keep climbing higher and higher and higher and higher, because there's more gold and there's more gold and there's more gold, and you never come back down, you didn't actually do anything. All you did was put yourself in some crazy place. Vaya be'emet chas v'shalom nechrav ha'olam, and God forbid it could destroy a person's world. Ki zeu b'chinat mitat hamelachim. This is the death of kings. Mechimat shelo hayu akelim yicholim lekabel ha'or, because there weren't vessels to receive the light. Chazru ha'orot shehem hamochim lamala meshorsham. The lights returned from the, I guess, was it Chazru ha'orot shehem hamochim lamala meshorsham. The lights returned that were a place, okay, got it, higher than their root. So your mind reached a place that's out of its mind. But through this ordering and pulling back our mind, which is from the aspect of keter, of the crown, and through this we fix all of the supernal worlds, as we mentioned before, by the mind going up above. This is the power that settles the mind and holds back the mind. It holds the mind back from chasing too far. Because of the quick chasing of the mind, and this holding back actually holds them back. Then it hits. So you can imagine somebody's running really fast and somebody comes and hits his leg and he trips. Ad shenaasim al yedei tisha hechalin delav inun nohorin. I don't know, I can guess what that is. Then when you stop your mind from chasing forward, you make these 9 palaces which is able to receive the infinite light. And that's how we grasp the infinite light, through going forwards and pulling back, running and returning. This is reaching and not reaching, as mentioned above. And this is how we bring the abundance of Hashem's infinite light down here into this world. Because through the chasing after the light, we bring the mind that's up above. This is the aspect of the mind is going up and up and up. That's the aspect of ratzo, of running. And through the holding back, that's the aspect of returning. And when you bring your mind back into this world, that's when all of the abundance and the blessings can come back down. So if you think about the analogy that I gave of climbing the mountain, because on the top of the mountain is gold. Okay, so let's do it like this. Let's make the analogy like this. The mountain is infinitely high. And the further you go up, the more refined the gold is. So a person is climbing this mountain. They reach a high place. They see gold, but they see a little bit above the gold is even better. And they see above the gold is better. And they see above the gold is better. I think this is also a problem with dating. Somebody dates a person, and they say that woman is better, or that man is better, and that one, I think it's more with men than with women. That woman is better, and that woman is better, and that woman is better, and they never reach a place of marrying somebody, and so they never reach a place of getting the shefa and the bracha and bring it down. Ki ikar kol habrachot nimshachim misham, because all of the blessings are drawn down from there. Me'or Ein Sof Yitbarach Shemo, from Hashem's infinite light. Shuhu mechaye et kulam, v'hu shoresh kol habrachot v'hashpaot ba'olam, that causes life for everything and is the root of all the blessings and abundance that come into the world. V'I efshar lekabel hashefa ki im al yedei hakelim shena'asim. You can't receive the light unless you make a vessel for it. Al yedei chinat tisha echalim, through these nine palaces or vessels. V'na'asim al yedam redifa v'ma'akev, and this is done through the chasing after and the pulling back. So you understand what we're saying? Every time you have this high spiritual experience, you have to come back. You have to come back and come back and come back. You can't just keep going forward forever, or you don't actually build a vessel for it. It's like every little thing that a person does step by step, and you piece it together. So, I do ceramics. So in ceramics, you don't start off making big stuff. You start off making small stuff, so you can handle the small stuff, and then you make bigger stuff. And with ceramics, there's an infinite level of reaching a higher place. You can always be better. You can always make what you're making better. You can always learn from your mistakes and fix them. So I made a bunch of plates this week. I do Sunday, Monday. Sunday I threw on the wheel. Monday I trimmed them. And I came into work yesterday. So what was it? Yeah, I came in today, it must have been, because it's Tuesday. And I saw one of them started to crack. It was starting to dry. So I quickly sprayed it with water, covered it with plastic, and I said to myself, very nice that I can make a beautiful plate and then it cracks. The point is to make a plate and for it to come out of the kiln without cracking. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that this doesn't break. And I have the skill to catch it on time, wrap it in plastic, just give it a week to dry. This is all the mate vela mate. That you start at a certain level, and then you go to another level, and you go to another level, and the levels are infinite. And the more you go up these levels, the more, the more intellectual, infinite light you can bring down. Ki ore ein sof, I efshar la'asig, you can't grasp this. Okay. Uperush mate vela mate, and the meaning of reaching and not reaching. Let's see if we can reach this quickly. Yodea lemevinim lechokmei Kabbalah, those that understand, those that understand Kabbalah, dehainu shemegia ve'ino megia, that you reach but you don't reach. So we've been talking about all this time. Sherodef umegia la'asig ve'af al pi chen eino megia umasig, that a person tries to runs and grasps something, but then they realize that they didn't actually grasp something, but on the other hand, they did grasp something. And this is through chasing and holding back, as mentioned above. And even though we're making these vessels, as mentioned above, and through this we receive the level of I'm not sure what it is. Maybe he's talking about chokhmah, koachma, the intellectual ability of receiving the infinite light. Afan pichen lo yedia vela it yada, eino yodea velo noda. That a person reaches something, but they don't reach something. They know that they reach something, but they don't really know what they reach, but they know that they reach something. Ve'ein mi shemasigotam. There's nobody that can actually grasp the infinite light. V'lo mitbakim behem, and you don't attach yourself to it. V'lo yodim otam, and you don't really know them. Ki efshar liyatzer b'sechel hasagot ele be'echalot hanal. Because you can experience the infinite light, but you can't actually intellectually understand it. V'atam, and the reason is ki afilo heim lamala me, because the infinite light is coming beyond our physical capacities and even our mental capacities. Lamala me kol hasichlut, beyond all intellectual capacities. Kehem lamala me ha-sfirot v'chulei. They're even above all of the attributes and the sfirot that we mentioned here, and so on. As explained above, but Lashon Rabbeinu, as Rabbi Nachman said, Ayin sham heitev etevin. Go and look further, and you'll understand. Shelo safti shum devar klal. This is Reb Nosson talking. I didn't add anything additional at all. Ki bichlal dvarai. His words are my words. V'rak chazarti ve'be'alti advarim k'tzat legodol otzem amkutam ad ein sof. And the reason that I added, this is Reb Nosson saying, the reason that I added, and I went over to clarify what Rabbi Nachman said, because of the great depth, infinite depth that's in the words that he said. This is where the 9 vessels are made. Now he's explaining where the 9 comes from. We talked about this before. We have Chochmah, Bina, and Dat. We have all of the levels. So if we just take this here, this is where we get the 9. We have Chochmah, Bina, and Dat, Chesed, Tferet, Kvua, and Netzach, Yesod, and Hod. Those are the 9. We're missing the Bina, Chochmah, Bina, we're missing the Dat here. So each of those, bringing all of those together, we make the 9 vessels to receive the infinite light. Ashrei mi sheyizkeh lelech ula'alot b'derech hakodesh hane'emar b'torah zot. Blessed is the person that merits to go on higher on the path, the holy path of the Torah that we mentioned, this Torah. Hainu shebechol aliyah v'aliyah she'oleh, that is every level that a person goes up, yizkeh la'asot the mitzvot b'simcha. Person merits to do the mitzvot with joy, yetira, with special joy, u'b'tosefet simcha mima she'aya kodem, and with additional joy than there was before, ad sheyizkeh la'asig elu, ad kan tosafot ma'onat. Until a person is able to reach this high level, that's the end of the additions that Reb Nosson added. And next week we're going to finish the lesson, Bezrat Hashem, because we're on the last section, which is just this here. Hopefully we'll get through all of this. That's where it finishes. And that's where we're going to bring it all together. What is this hand of Hashem? But of course, next Tuesday night is Shavuot. So we won't be meeting here next Tuesday night. We won't be meeting, I don't know where everybody's going to be. I'm going to be at home learning with Rabbi Nachman. That's what I've been doing in recent years. I used to go to the old city to Rabbi Aaron, but I don't have the energy to do it anymore. It's really the bottom line. Okay. I tried to find a story that I haven't told yet, and I didn't really have a lot of success. So I'm just going to tell you quickly a story, and for anybody who listens to the podcast, this is the short version of the second story on the podcast. You should still listen to it. I daven on, the joke of the guy who has 2 shuls. He's stranded on the island, he has 2 shuls, one he davens in, one he won't daven in. So there were these Russian brothers that were davening about Tehran. They come every now and then. And I said to them once, how come you guys don't come all the time? He said, you heard the joke? Like, yeah. He's like, did you hear the one about the guy that has 3 shuls? I said, no. He said he built one for him to daven in, one he won't step foot in, and one he davens in sometime. He said, this is our 3rd shul. We daven here sometimes. So, Rav Segal, who's the rabbi over here at the shul I daven in Mincha, the guy is a tzaddik. There's no question. And I'm a pretty judgmental person. I don't just call people tzaddikim. There's no question. They're a shining light, a very special guy. So he always gives a Dvar Torah at Sudash Lishit. He said he was sitting at a bus stop this last week, and he's learning all the time. And it seems like every month he finishes his Masechet. There's always a siyum in the shul. And so he's sitting learning Gemara. This guy comes over with a cane, this older secular Israeli, and he sits down next to Rav Segal. He pulls out his Sudat Necheh. his handicap certificate. And he says to Rav Segel, I was injured in the war, like in one of the previous wars, and I've been suffering my whole life. You Haredim don't serve in the army. Why do you think that I should be injured while you sit here healthy learning your Torah? So Rav Segel said, that's a tough question, right? So we're all like, okay, how are you going to answer? And he said, I'll give you an answer from the Chafetz Chaim. He said, the Chafetz Chaim was once asked a similar question. And he answered, why are people sitting and learning Torah all the time when other people are doing other things? What does this necessarily do with the army? He said, in an army, you have the front line, which are the soldiers that are actually out there in battle that are shooting. And behind them, you have the intelligence, and you have the truck drivers, and you have the people that are packing ammunition, and you have people that are bringing food, and you have the whole backup of the army. He says to this guy, is the whole backup of the army considered the army, or just the guys that are shooting in the front? He said, no, of course everybody. Intelligence, trucks, everyone. They're all part of the army. He said, good, so I'm also part of the army. He said, Hashem decided that 2/3 of the people here in Israel will serve in the IDF, and 1/3 will sit and learn Torah. And he said, and I'm in the third that sits and learns Torah. Now he said something very nice. He said, when I learn Torah, I don't just learn Torah for myself, I learn it for the whole Jewish people. And I know that when I'm learning Torah, I'm learning it for the success of our soldiers in battle. And I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, just like that's what they're supposed to be doing. And the guy liked the answer, because of course he's sitting next to a tzaddik. Right? If I said this to him, he might have spit in my face. But you're standing next to a guy who's literally shining Kedusha. You just want to be around this guy. There's no question. So that was kind of an unfair advantage. So the guy says to Rav Segel, what are you learning? He says, Baba Metzia. He says, what's that? I never heard of it before. He's like, oh, come, we'll learn the Daf Yomi. And they're learning together. The bus comes, they get on the bus, they're learning together. Finally, it's time for Rav Segel to get off, and he tells the guy, and the guy enjoyed very much learning with him. And he said, if this is what learning is, I'm sorry I missed it my whole life. He said, go find a yeshiva, ask them to teach you. And then he mentioned that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said 30 years ago that if they were to close down all the yeshivot here in Israel and draft all the soldiers, it would be a sakana gdola. It would be a big danger for the Jewish people. Now, I really believe that he's right, that the learning makes a huge difference. But my prayer is that everybody that's really learning, like a soldier, first of all, fights the Yetzer Hara. Doesn't spend 5 hours drinking coffee. They're actually learning, which is a very hard thing to do. And I think most people are not capable of doing it. First thing. And second, that really every time before they learn, they say, this is because I am part of the army of Hashem, and I'm giving my learning to help our soldiers in battle be successful, and not just for themselves. Bezat Hashem. Okay. That's it until 2 weeks from now. Bezat Hashem. What are we going to sing? Probably something similar to what we were singing before.